I want to say the engineers bring engineering into it. It is essential because nowadays with vibe code, maybe you don't need the engineer as a person, but you need the engineering to build the solution.
What it should be, because they deal with customer, because marketing has their view and sales that have their own view, and the customer support has their own view. So it's part of the role of the product manager and the head of product management to create a common vision among all of the areas. Hi, here we are in another Product Chronicles episode. I'm Joca.
I'm Paulo Caroli.
Hey, I'm Fabio. Really happy to be here.
And this is the Brazilian way. Three Brazilians talking about product the Brazilian way with a lot of accent. So today we were discussing previously about talking about discovery. Discovery is a very important topic. We started to talk about discovery prior to starting recording this episode, and we already found a lot of topics. So discovery is the topic today. Who wants to start?
Go, Fabio. Fabio's writing material right now about discovery for a client.
Yeah, well, uh, just for the sake of introduction, it's funny how in product in general, somebody usually in the Silicon Valley they give like a catchy name, to something to a certain stage of product development, and that catchy name catches on because it's so catchy. So I when I started working in product, we didn't say right that word discovery. It was just like it was all product development. Then suddenly somebody started saying, "Oh, yeah, there is the product discovery phase," and it was interesting as an idea. So everybody started using that term. But the moment that we start using the term, it's so easy to start distorting what the term should actually mean. So there's discovery kind of became uh, a fancy way of saying I'm doing some basic research, and it's really fuzzy because nobody actually talks about the details on how to do proper research and what we actually want with your research, and so let's see if we can clarify what a good discovery should do.
Yeah, that's important clarification. And by the way, who created this term, the product discovery, was Marty Kagan. Actually, back in 2007, he created this term, and it's interesting to see because here in Brazil, what happens at least with some of my Brazilian clients, I remember very clearly one of them. I went to the very first meeting with them. We are discussing about the engagement, the consultancy engagement with them. And the very first thing that they said is, listen, Joca, let's talk about product, but I don't want to hear the word discovery. I don't want to hear that word. And I asked, why? Because, everything that we want to do here, all the product people, they said that we need a discovery, we need to do a discovery, there is a discovery phase, there is a discovery process, and it normally takes like 2, 3, 4 months, and we already know what the customer needs. So it's a very heated argument. And one thing that I like to clarify to this type of clients is there is a difference between the problem discovery, so understanding the problem that our user has, and the solution discovery, which is okay, based on the problem that the customer has, what are the possibilities or what are the solution hypotheses that we have, so we can test some of them and figure out what we're gonna move to delivery, what we're gonna actually deliver. So that's something that I like to separate this the problem discovery from the solution discovery.
Joca, that's so funny because I work in so many places where first we figure out and build something and try to find a place where it fits, you know.
Engineering type of companies is normally like
Artificial
that.
intelligence. Yeah.
Yeah,
We know the solution, right? The solution is AI. Now let's find the problems.
yeah, yeah.
No, but actually AI is not so bad, right? Blockchain and metaverse and other stuff was
Haven't found their problems yet.
yeah. No, but actually, you reminded me of a good story where the payment page of a certain place that I was really bad. The conversion was really bad, and it was just like a payment form. So we just realized, yeah, it was slow. Something was going on there, and we there was a certain payment method that's very popular in Brazil that wasn't there. So we just needed to rearrange it a little bit and make it the form a little bit more readable and add a payment method. So I because it's related to payment, right? Like okay, that's an easy, quick win. End of the funnel. Anything that I do here that will actually improve the probability of payment will give me money. So let's prioritize this. And then the design team went, okay. No, in order to change the payment page, we need to do discovery first. And it was one of the rare occasions where I really lost it. We I was really pissed because like it's a payment page, like every payment page is absolutely the same anywhere in the world, like you don't need to discover the problem here, like they want to pay for something, that's all we need. It's pure usability, it's pure remove friction, there's nothing else to it, there is no specific problem to solve here. And they weren't having any of it. Like, no, that's the process. We do discovery here. And they were trying to teach me, the process.
Yeah,
And I'm still traumatized by that.
And you know what? That's the moment where I don't care about the word. Like maybe what they mean to tell you is like, look, we're going to implement it, but we want to validate if adding this new payment feature really is going to increase the number of sales. Like,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Of
It's
course.
not the word discovery; it's validate. Like, let's
Yeah,
figure out. Let's not put in production for our 1,000 million users.
exactly.
And let's put in production for only 100,000 and figure out if this made a difference. And I understand this, but that's not discovery. That's business as usual, or call it continuous discovery because you're validating stuff as you're coding it.
Exactly. It is I would say, if you want to use the word, no problem. It is a form of discovery. Sometimes I repeat that to my teams, like execution is a way to discover. You just you launch something, you realize what the audience reaction is, and you discover something. If you can actually come up with a good hypothesis about why they reacted the way they did.
yeah. Delivery is a fantastic way of discovery.
Yeah,
One of the
exactly.
best, one of the best discovery methods that I know. It's called product delivery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do something,
Yeah,
let them react, and let's see.
but here's the thing. On the past, delivery will take too long.
Exactly.
That's why some people are like, no, we need to discover. But like nowadays, delivery and discovery, they go hand in hand. It's totally fine. Neither should take long. Neither
Yeah.
discovery, neither delivery. Go for
Well,
like,
we touched on a very interesting topic here, which is the fear of launching something wrong, which is something that, since the lean startup and agile methodologies, maybe people don't translate it the way that I will, but I'll say that these are all a change in the mindset of there's never anything wrong that you're going to launch. The only wrong thing to do is not launching and discuss it endlessly, in conference rooms. When you launch something and you measure the audience reaction, which was, the other mistake that sometimes people do, they launch and hope for the best and don't measure anything. But if you launch a measure, which is the agile cycle, right? You're always learning something, you're discovering something, and it's the best way of actually doing a kick-ass product. Instead of discussing for 6 months and then launching, I'd rather discuss for one day, launch something in a month, and iterate 3 to 4 times in 6 months, and I'll have my product 4.0 in 6 months, which will be way better than anything that I'll do after 6 months of discussion.
One way that I like to frame discovery is that it is not a process, but it is a set of tools to mitigate risk. So if you look at like that, you understand that what you are trying to do is mitigate the risk. And what is the risk? The risk of building an awful product. you want
Yeah.
you want to build a successful product. So how do you mitigate the risk of not spending time building the wrong thing? That's the how I like to frame to my clients. And you have a lot of tools. You have prototypes, you have user research, you have A/B tests, you have delivery, product delivery, you have those vibe coding tools that we have today that is so easy to develop something, and you can put something online and see the reaction of users. So that's the way to go.
I think it's all about short feedback cycle. Short feedback cycle, which go against the long-phased approach to get feedback, to get insight of people either using or talking to you about your idea.
Yeah, there's something that I remember about my experience building in the waterfall way, so very traditional. I was in a big project, and there was still, that fear of building the wrong thing. So what we would do is like make a very high fidelity prototype, put it in front of the stakeholders, and they would give us feedback, and then we correct whatever, and then launch. I realized that was a huge waste of time, actually, because when you put the high fidelity prototype, what happens that everybody would look at every single detail, because every detail was high fidelity, right? So they're like, oh, I don't like the tone of yellow in that button. Oh, actually that word, why don't we change that word? And there was, sometimes a list of 50, 100 different feedbacks and changes that we needed to do. And then we finally launched the thing with all of those feedbacks, implemented. And people will go like, oh, I don't like that other word now. And then I realized, if you show something, you're actually inviting any kind of feedback. So a very high fidelity prototype was actually inviting users to have any kind of opinion and no commitment whatsoever with delivery, because they were just, okay, you're asking for an opinion, I'll give you an opinion, especially because you took 1 hour out of my time, so I'll make that hour count. So I'll give you very, very detailed opinions. And then we launched and everybody was still unhappy. And what happens in those cases? No, more often than not, it's like, oh, I did what you asked for, so you can't say anything anymore. And then everybody's unhappy, right? Because the user, he has the right to be unhappy. It doesn't matter if he said yes a month ago. It really doesn't matter. If he's unhappy, he's unhappy. And we want to make the user happy and I don't know, and make something useful for the user. And also I'm unhappy because I feel like I'm wasting my time doing all the validation. Like, oh, the users keep changing their minds. Yeah, exactly. They're human. Everybody will change their mind. So I'm just telling this story because a lot of people might identify with that. And what I discovered that is the solution to that is actually do not validate the solution, at least try not to. The discussion of the solution should be the least of your concerns. You should focus on the problem. Realize what the problem is. And you can design a good solution when you know what the problem is. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to add. Like, there is a moment to validate the solution.
Yeah.
That's after you figure out the problem.
Yeah.
Later, you have a moment to validate the solution.
But there's one thing that I did on that place. I stopped validating prototypes, and and all the time that I saved doing prototypes, I would put it towards delivery, and I would deliver, and then I would ask for validation. when people saw the thing already launched, they had way less opinions about it. Like, oh, that's pretty good,
Yeah.
and you know,
Yeah.
there's no button,
Uh,
yellow button that were
yeah.
bothering
Wh-
them anymore.
I like the way you're going, but when you work this way, you cannot have a whole prototype for the whole product. Then you have to work in a very thin slice of a product, otherwise it's
Exactly.
going to take long. That's what I
Exactly.
like because then you go towards MVP and this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. You know, what
Yeah.
is the smallest set of things to put in the hands of the user to make available to validate your hypothesis.
Yeah.
You know.
No, it was actually sliced that way. Very very small pieces of development, and we're doing it step by step.
Yeah.
So
I was never
continue
a big
that.
fan of very large prototypes.
Yeah.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. I'm very concerned. There is another issue that I see very commonly is people understand very well the problem, and then they have an idea of a solution, and their very first idea of solution is the one that goes to delivery. They don't spend enough time thinking about solution hypotheses that they could test. What I normally try to explain to my clients, to people about this, is that we want to innovate, we want to create innovative solutions. And normally, there is no room for innovation neither in the problem discovery nor in the delivery. The best way for you to innovate, to find the best solution, is if you spend some time in the solution discovery, tinkering with a possible solution hypothesis that you have. Because normally the first solution idea that you have is not the best one. Another important aspect for this part of the solution discovery is not about product managers and designers only. We need to bring engineers to discuss solution hypotheses.
Thanks, Joca. That's what I say on Leanception. For me, Leanception is a perfect fit for solution discovery. A lot of people say, oh, Leanception is part of discovery. I'm like, it depends what you're calling discovery. Like, in my mind, problem discovery, no. The Leanception, because you have the engineers, the designers, and the product people, of course, you're going towards solution. But don't go for the whole product, you gotta finalize it somehow.
So
Okay,
that's
I
a
have
question. No, go
another
ahead.
top. Yeah, especially in English. Okay, the difference between the word assumption and hypothesis. In my mind, I have something like when I hear the term word discovery, I'm like, cool, go figure out stuff so you have better assumption, better understand about the users, formulate better your assumptions. And when I hear the word hypothesis, I'm like, fast delivery, MVP, go validate it with real stuff. And those words in English, they're good because they're different. In Portuguese, they're closer, it's more difficult. I want to hear from you guys your view on word assumption, hypothesis, discovery, delivery. Where does it fit?
For me, everything is a hypothesis, man. I'd rather not be sure of anything, not assume anything, if you will, and just say, okay, do we have the bandwidth or money or time to test this? So let's do it. Let's do it. Because if you try to assume too much, it's so often you're going to be surprised about how the target audience will receive your beautiful solution. So many times I did an A/B test that I knew that it was going to be a winner, and it lost so ridiculously fast. And I just realized, yeah, I know nothing about my users, and it's not because I'm dumb. It's just because they keep changing, and I don't really control, the traffic on my product and their needs and their environment and their mindset. So I would go as far as say, yeah, you can have assumptions, but everything ultimately is just a hypothesis, and you can disprove any hypothesis at any point. In other words, doubt your product every day. Like try to make it better every single day. Try to find out what the users out there are feeling every single day, because it will change and will get you by surprise if you don't research that on a daily basis. A little bit too radical, maybe, but yeah.
I like from what you said. The part I like is like I don't like assumption. In my view, it's like go very quick figuring out your assumptions and go build and validate fast. I like that part. But I think there is a minimum of assumption, especially in large organizations, so you understand where the hell we are going. Otherwise, people are pointing 10 different directions without any data, without any user research. I think there's a minimum there that it's needed.
But do you think that discovery is focused on the user problem only, or should we use the discovery also to understand the business problem that we want to achieve, the business goal that we want to achieve? If we have the knowledge to be able to build a solution, if we have the capabilities to build a solution, what do you think? It's only about the user, or there is more to discovery than only the user problem?
I have Mark Kega answer because I had some arguments with him about this. Like, well, discovery is more than that. Of course, about the business and the users and all of this, but easier said than done. I work with a lot of very large organizations, and from well, I'm going to be honest here. Sometimes we put too much in the shoes of the product person. We say, look, the product person, you are inspired, transformed, all that stuff, which is beautiful. But a very large organization, you cannot have it all in one person. So it's very difficult at very large organizations and complex situations. Some people understand more about the users, and some people understand more about the business. And then if you call discovery the sum of everything that happens, so we build amazing products, yeah. But if you call discovery tools and methods, then I have mixed feelings on the how far should the discovery go.
Yeah, I have an answer for this, which is try to make a business with unhappy users, and it's very hard. So yeah, first and foremost, your users should like your product, especially B2C. If you're working B2C, there's no way around it. The first thing is make a product that people want to use, and then you figure out the business, because you will have a business if people really want your product. B2B, a little bit more complex than go ahead.
It will. I'll throw an example here because things are more complicated than, especially in large organizations. I'll bring the example from Facebook. There was a team work on Facebook web. Okay. There is another team in another building that start Facebook mobile. So someone from the business side was like, cool, we think mobile is going to be the big thing, but web is still give us money. They had two teams apart, and on their strategy, they were going to kill web over the years. So, but you don't have like one product manager for both. We had different people, and the person taking care of web was really taking care of web. The person taking care of mobile was really taking care of mobile, and the business was overlooked. That's why for me, on large organizations, sometimes it's much more complicated than just saying, this magic word takes care of everything. Of course, in one product, one small thing, yes, but in very large and complex organizations, which I go through like platform teams and enablement teams, all this mess, man, discovery get or whatever you call it, that beginning of the understanding to make informed decisions. That's difficult.
But now we're really talking about the revenue making side of it, right? Which is how in a complex organization you will balance out all of the initiatives and realize what's the most profitable decision for a company, right?
Yeah. Now I'm mixing strategy and discovery. Should discovery take care of the overall strategy, or should we have the overall strategy and discovery? It's within it. There are two ways to look at it as well.
I would compartmentalize it to make it simpler, okay? I'm not saying that this is something that everybody will be able to do, but if you ask me like on a whim, like, okay, answer this, how do we do it? I would say, yeah, on the product level, on the more tactical level, you should make users happy. You should build a good product.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Totally
you
agree.
guarantee that people are using it. And then there's the strategic level, which is above that, which is okay, I have this influx of users. They're using my stuff. But here's how I make money. I make more money when people do this than people do that. And that ultimately, will alienate certain parts of the product where people are doing a great job, but you're actually not that interested in that. Actually, I have an example. I'm giving a consultancy now to a company that they have both a B2B and a B2C product. B2B, there's a few thousand users. B2C has thousands of users. B2B is like a handful, about 10-ish. But I'm doing the strategic part for them. And it's very, very clear that it's going to be way easier to grow the business with B2B. Um, and B2B should drive ultimately the B2C efforts because, once a company jumps in, they bring all the users in. And, uh, and yeah, it has nothing to do with the product itself, right? It's much more about that's definitely looking at the markets, trying to understand where the money is coming from. The B2B is very disproportionately more, richer than B2C, and they have roughly the same needs. So we should, make all the effort to go and do the B2B sales cycle, which is way longer, but still is going to give so much more money yearly than, putting ads out and trying to increase traffic and grow organically the B2C, which is a very, very cheap product and so on. So that has nothing to do with the quality, of the product itself. Has nothing to do, in my mind, with the problem or solution discovery of making a good product or not. It's much more about how I handle the spreadsheet.
Yeah, which is a discovery. It's a if you look into the risk mitigation perspective, you are mitigating the risk of the business existing. So
Yeah.
it is a risk mitigation. Using a spreadsheet is a risk mitigation method, and I like it. I've seen other companies using it. Instead of building the product, seeing if the product makes sense from a business perspective. Because if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make any sense going after users and asking them their problem because economically it doesn't make sense. So
And
it's
by the way, what is interesting here that I forgot to mention is that I'm building all this report and this analysis by talking to the users. And so I'm actually doing a user research, and I'm not gonna call that discovery, but it might be, but it is actually a very thorough research with around 20 people from B2B customers and B2C customers, and also disgruntled customers and happy customers. So I'm just trying to talk to a little bit of every different persona to understand their perspective, and on how we can better serve them. And from talking to the market, I could see very clearly, that the B2B path is way open.
nice, nice. And another problem that I see, I talked about the solution discovery, but I want to hear more from you because I saw Paulo was happy that I bring that to the discussion, which is during the solution discovery, bringing the engineers to work with us. What's your take on that, Paulo, Fabio?
We're both engineers, so
Yeah. Now, for me, I want to say the engineers bring engineering into it. It is essential because nowadays with vibe code, maybe you don't need the engineer as a person, but you need the engineering to build the solution. You gotta have that capability or in the room. The thing when it's good to be a person is because that person has a head of engineer and thinks like engineer. Because sometimes, and that's the danger with vibe coding. With vibe coding, you go too far without the need to make a more complex solution for the problem. And the engineer, a good engineer wouldn't do that. A good engineer would think about the final solution, but only build the minimum necessary right now. And my concern right now with vibe coding is this, because now you have other people vibe coding, and it's pretty easy to write a prompt. Build the whole thing for me, and then suddenly We have, I don't know, a lot of legacy code very badly written for very large products that you need many more engineers to fix it.
I have the same concern with vibe coding. The solution discovery may fell back into the hands of the product designer and product manager, and they forget to include. That's why I like to have a person, an engineer, not the engineering, but an engineer together with them, even if it's vibe coding, but together with them and analyzing the viability from the technical perspective, because as you said, it's very easy with vibe coding for product managers to build something and think, okay, I already have the product, let me launch this product, and then it doesn't scale, it has a lot of security issues, and
There's something that the product team needs to work on, right? To have a good relationship with engineering, because engineering, they tend to not be very descriptive in their analysis. Everything's kind of obvious to them, so it's more like, oh no, that's not a good solution, oh that's the best solution. And you need to kind of be closer to them, more intimate with them, to finally make them open up to, okay, here's three options of technical solutions, I like that one better because of this and this and that, because they tend not to justify themselves very much. They think that you're not interested, they think that you won't understand. And so many times I would, be closer and just say, oh, explain to me like I'm five. I want to understand exactly what the options are. So maybe I can help here, and just let's see what we're missing out by not doing something. Or sometimes a stakeholder would push, towards a certain solution. Engineering will push back, and I'll be, hey guys, I'm in the middle here, so please explain. Like I need to be able to explain there. And I can take you there to explain. They're like, no, I'm good. Okay, I can do it, but I need to know everything that you know. And then you realize that's so much more complex, right? Then, oh, this is good, this is bad. But I've crossed paths with a lot of engineering that would be addicted with yes and no answers, with no justifying at all. So we need to take that out of engineering. And one of the ways is actually putting engineering in the meeting room with us, right? Just say, hey, we're a team, and there's not like two different options of building technology. There's 2,000. So everyone will have pros and cons. Everyone. So you can be in love with a certain solution, sell it to us. Tell us why you're in love with that. But let's analyze, security wise. I don't know. One thing that I more often than not I see people overlooking, which is the ease of maintenance later in a couple of years. So many times
Operations
you go
cost.
like, oh, I'm in love with this brand new language. Let's
yeah.
use it, and then you don't find any developers in the market anymore to maintain that. And it is something that you might take into consideration depending on your business, or maybe not. Maybe your business kind of more hipster, fashionable, and you can hire new developers just snap your fingers, and there's going to be people that will get a lot of money because you're Series B, Series C, whatever. Okay, yeah, just go ahead and do something that's going to be state of the art. But other companies, yeah, they will be there in 10, 15 years, and it will become a problem. All of the technical choices that you did. So I'm not saying that you need, to over-engineer everything and think about the next 10 years, because it's impossible. And every company that I've been that had more than 10 years, without exception, they are refactoring everything. So it's normal. Yeah, software becomes obsolete. Code is not forever, which is not something that I learned in my university, computer engineering, that I was with Caroli, actually.
It
We
was in
had
the
this.
90s. It was different.
It was the 90s, exactly. And we believed that, code would, now you just need maintenance, right? You build the code and then you maintain it, and it's going to be there forever because it's very
Come on.
resilient, and
Let's
it's never going to
remember.
break. Oh,
Look, look. Back to the topic of discovery. We had the phase analysis, design, coding, testing, and then UAT or whatever put to production, right? And then we're switching slowly. And when discovery comes, for a lot of people, it's like first the design coding we meshed because like the design and the code became the same thing. But then we said like discovery replaces analysis, and then delivery replaces the coding and testing, right? And but we put this in phases. That's the biggest mistake because things are not in phases; they're going parallel. The world has changed from what we studied in the 90s. Discovery is happening continuously in parallel. Delivery is happening continuous. Your strategy is evolving continuously. It's a different world. It's a different ball game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Because it started changing too fast, which is something that I like to say that the age of experts is dead. Like product wise, nobody can be an expert anymore. Which I'm still confused about. All the talking about product management market specifically, like, oh, we need a data product manager, now we need a fintech product manager, insurance product manager, whatever, AI product manager. Well, those are going to be obsolete in 5 years. Everything is going to change. Like nobody's an expert anymore. We should always be good, less than good at answering questions. We should be good at asking the questions. So this is going to make a good product. Not asking an expert, but rather asking everybody, okay, how do you use this? What is your problem? And then you come up with a good solution, and you keep doing it because your good solution right now is not going to be very good in a year time. It's changing too fast for somebody to pretend to be an expert at anything, which is something that I'm struggling with big companies that usually they work like that, Caroli, with the Eddie model, and etc. And you always have a SME, like a subject matter expert, which will be the guy, oh, I know everything about this. And you realize that you kind of don't, but you can't tell the guy that, right? So it's very hard to break that culture, and but it is actually what should happen. Replace the subject matter expert with proper research. He can be part of the research, sure, of course. Experienced guy has seen lots of things, but it's wrong to consider that expert as the single voice that will matter. You need to talk to new users. You need to talk to the upcoming market, people that just entered the company. I don't know. Talk to other people too. Actually, I had a question for you guys because Joca touched upon a point related to this, which is pretty cool. And how do you identify the good solution from the other the others? How do you know that a solution is better than the
You
others?
don't. You don't. You just don't waste time in a bad solution. You try, if it's bad, you
How do
change
you know?
directions really fast.
But how do you know that it's bad?
Well,
You,
you go, Joker, go, Joker.
no, I would say you test them and you test the quickest to implement, the cheapest to implement, the fastest to implement, and you test it. You put it in front of users and see their reaction, and that's it. That's how I advise normally.
Yeah, for me, the group of people involved with it, the engineer, the designer, the product, and the business person has to figure out and decide what is the MVP, and the MVP is only one, and then you test it. If it's good and it's going in a good direction, evolve it, add to it. If you get some learning like, oops, it's not a really good direction, pivot, and then you go and find the good solution, the good direction. So
But what
start
if the
small, learn
stakeholders?
fast.
But what if you're in a room and there's like five stakeholders and each one is defending their own MVP and say, oh, no, mine is better.
Oh, invite me to run a lean section. That's what I do. The thing is, it's really difficult to start by deciding the MVP. That I learned like in several years trying to figure out MVP. If you start a workshop that has all these people like, okay, what are the hypotheses to validate? It's really difficult. Easy to write an article to tell in a book. But for people, different stakeholders look from different point of views, it's really hard. That's why I like a few activities before making this question. And when you make this question, you don't make from the overall solution. You talk about the small pieces that combine together, will have the information or whatever it's needed for the MVP. Once people understand a small piece, you ask them, okay, how do we fit those together and what's the smallest set that you can put in the hands of the user? But it takes a while to make this question. You cannot start the workshop or the meeting and say, okay, what's the MVP? What are we validating? In a higher level, yes, but not in the details, like in the optionality of the solutions or the proposals.
But in short, how do you feel that the lean inception helps on that process? What happens there that
The
will help
discussions
people?
become very visible. It's very clear. You know, oh, we're pointing different directions. Then you have time, and then you look from the business perspective, from the user perspective in their journeys, and then the technical perspective. Then you talk about each detail. There's a tech wax and business review of every single point, you know, and their colors, level of uncertainty, and comparison, effort-wise, value for the business, value for the users. So after you talk about all of these, all the people together in the room, and then you put this in order to say, okay, you ask where we're going to start, what's our strategy, you know. But you need to have those conversations beforehand. Single small point of or idea or feature or whatever it is, you know.
There are a few steps back that we need to take, understanding the problem first, and then
Yeah.
discussing solutions.
Yes. All of these first understand the problem and then look a little bit from the business perspective, you know. Look a little bit from the user perspective. Listen a little bit from the technical perspective. Then for every single small piece, make a review of the proposal or the idea and then try to figure out how do we start this puzzle.
Yeah, I want to highlight that you use a very good word, direction. A direction is you aiming at a certain point. So in order to decide the direction, you have to know the destination, right? You have to know exactly where you want to go. And don't you think that sometimes that's overlooked a little bit? Like people, they say, "Oh, let's improve the product," but improving is meaningless if you don't have this standard of what a good product is, right? So, how do you decide the direction?
Fabi, it's really hard. You need a good problem discovery, right? But many times you won't have a good product discovery. And you shouldn't take too long on a product discovery anyway. So have a very short time frame for the problem discovery. Hopefully you have this answer before you go to the room to have a solution discussion about how do we get started here. And then on the solution discovery, we're going to get started somewhere on an alignment about the MVP, the very first step that's going to validate. That, the word is a validation, because then you're going to build something really fast, put in the hands of the user, and then you have the feedback. You know, it's not a full solution again. Yeah. So very short cycles, hopefully problem discovery in short cycle and solution discovery short cycle, and then the delivery or the creation of that MVP or the very first step in a small cycle where you validate with a few users, A/B tests or whatever it is, and now you're in a continuous loop. And then that's what I call like continuous discovery, continuous delivery, continuous everything. And that should fit your strategy, your discovery, your delivery, and everybody's on sync going the same direction.
Yeah, but I like to add to that and this would give a full another episode to talk about. But the direction is the product vision, is what you want
Yes.
to build
Oh.
like in 2-3 years time frame. You know,
That happens on the previous life because
Exactly.
that's got to be solved. That shouldn't be what's our vision? No. If you're discussing solution discovery MVP, it's for a vision that we have agreed long ago. You know, you cannot have all of this on the same workshop. Oh, let's talk about our vision. Let's talk about our strategy. Let's talk about the problems. No,
This is
it's
another
way-
workshop.
Yeah, it's another workshop in another time frame. You know.
Yeah, that's actually something that I see a lot, and that's why I was intrigued by that usage of that word direction, because so many times I see that people they did not agree on the vision at all. They're just like taking requests, okay, let's implement this feature, but yeah, what exactly is the problem, or not even the problem, let's not use that word. What is the result of your product? What are you trying to achieve in the world launching that product? What is going to change, in the user's life because your product exists? And so many times they have this very, very fuzzy view of that, like, oh no, I think it's useful. They requested that, and there's so much that we can talk about that. But so many times it comes back to a little bit of that. Ask why. Ask why somebody wants a report. Ask what they do with that data, that they really need that data on their dashboards. And but also it says something about our previous talk, about metrics. Actually, that hasn't been launched yet, right? So yeah, that our future talk about metrics, or maybe when this is launched, the
This is
metrics.
not, yeah, probably.
The future
So our
past talk.
talk about metrics, which so many times I try to do first, like, okay, let's decide on how I measure customer happiness. And in order to be able to measure customer happiness, we need to define it. Okay, what is a happy customer? What does my product do that will affect the user in a happy way? Do I know that? Do I know what I'm trying to achieve? And so many times people will be even resistant to that, especially in very, very large organizations. And I had some experience with internal products, and there was uh, in a certain client, there was a product that ultimately it was trying to automate some processes that were related to the job security. And I said, okay, so what that product should do is actually prevent accidents and prevent loss of life. And they'll go like, oh, but lives are lost for a number of other reasons that the software does nothing to help that. I said, yeah, but it's kind of the other way around. And I and I was struggling to be convincing. I was like, oh man, they're not wrong, but how can I convince that person that the software should at least aim, at reducing accidents, because the process that the software, that people need to input data for is all related to that. So in order to know if my software is useful, I need to know to measure something, that's happening on real life.
There's a
And I
reason
and
to
it
be.
was and it was a struggle because their culture was so alien to them. For them, software did software things, and accidents happen in the real life. It's a and so did you ever encounter that? How do you deal with that? Because I'm just saying all of this because if you don't discuss that, what is my software doing? It's almost impossible for us, right, to do any kind of discovery because
What
you're
you're discovering for?
huh?
Exactly. What are you discovering for?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You need to have. I call it this product vision. We even talked in the metrics episode about the North Star metric, and we said is not a metric, should be a destination. And when we talk about destination, we talk about direction. So this is all related. I believe we should make a full episode about this because this is a very, very important topic. If we don't have this clarity, what happens is a lot of things that you mentioned, like people bringing their own opinions, their vision of what it should be, because they deal with customer, because marketing has their view and sales that have their own view, and the customer support has their own view. So it's part of the role of the product manager and the head of product management to create a common vision among all of the areas. But it generates like a lot of 40-50 minutes of discussion,
Yeah. No,
probably.
this is a heated topic. I've been working a lot with OKRs, right? So, and Evan wrote a book on Team OKR, and I've been reading all the books and all the material that comes along in OKR. And I'm from IT, and I really like a lot of product thinking. One thing I realized, there are a lot of books now talk about product OKR, but the challenge I'm facing, and has to do with this question from Fabio, is what I don't like in product OKR. right? Because then you decide what is the product OKR, and then within the product scope, you figure out what to do and how to know your product OKR in there. But that belongs on overall thing, That's the question from Fab. So I much rather have like an OKR of, call it whatever, strategic OKR, organizational OKR, and once I understand it, that might guide the product, if there is a product team, the product team,
And how the
But
product
because
can help.
not the other way around, that's the one thing I don't like on the word product OKR. Because when it is a product team and the product team has an OKR, fine, but that should be within something a little more broad, I'm having a hard time because there are a lot of really good authors, or a lot of really good people that I like, and they're talking a lot about product OKR. I'm like, I understand what you mean, but there is a slight danger there.
Yeah. It's separating in silos again.
Yeah.
Well, it comes back to my introduction, right? People want catchy names. They are just
Exactly.
getting some terms and like, okay, let's product
Yeah.
OKR, and now that's the
product OKR is a catchy name. I totally agree. And you read their books, like I agree with 95% that's written there. Only that catch thing that I'm like, on the large organizations, I'm having trouble with this.
Yeah.
But
In the example that Fabio brought is accident prevention. This is the objective, and the product is part of the solution. Maybe
Exactly.
the whole solution, but it's part of the solution and should be measured by the number of accidents that were prevented by using the software. Is that simple?
But the OKR is something broader than the product
Exactly.
OKR.
Exactly.
That's why I don't like the word product OKR. It's OKR.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
yeah. It's a tough discussion, but it's
It is that if you bring some of those authors here, they would prove me wrong, and they would say, no, but your business is your product, therefore it's the product OKR.
Yeah. That's a good one. Whoa, we talked a lot. We are already at 50 minutes of episode, but I wanted to finish with another question that may give another minutes of discussion. But it's a topic that Fabio brought in the beginning, but we didn't cover that much at the beginning. Are there situations when we don't need to do discovery?
payment pages.
Yes, of course there is. If someone hires you to deliver something, deliver it.
Yeah.
It's-
If you are hired to deliver, okay, deliver. But the
Today's
commitment to the solution is zero.
No, someone came here to my house today to assemble the bed my wife bought for my girl. It's a really big bed, But the guy came here to assemble it. He said, this bed's really big for this room. But he did assemble and he left. That's it. He was hired to assemble the bed.
Yeah.
If it was an architect, someone that would come like, no, wait a second, a bed that big doesn't make sense for the room of this size. But it was not the case.
Yeah.
And we face this in our world. Sometimes it's not about discovering things, it's about doing it.
No, but I was going to say that it's just like Joca said, it's about risk mitigation. Sometimes mitigating the risk is more expensive than doing something.
There you go.
Just do it. It cannot be more expensive, right?
Yeah.
So for certain pages that are already a given, that they're pretty much the same everywhere, do it, but measure.
Do it exactly. If you can't discover, at least measure it. Do it and measure and say, look.
Yeah.
Don't say the word I told you. Just show the numbers.
But also, because I was thinking, okay, what other page, because payment page, that's pretty much the same anywhere in the world. There's going to be payment methods, the checkout page. Yeah. But I was thinking about sign up, sign in. It's almost kind of the same everywhere, right? So maybe you think, there's not much to discover. Still, I would submit, no, there is. There are a number of ways where how the user could, sign up. Maybe you can do it via WhatsApp, sending a number code to the guy's WhatsApp, and you have the telephone number instead of having password and login. And but I would say that the most interesting thing about that is not even if discovery is needed or not, because you can always experiment, right? You just A/B test or something like that. Yeah, just insert a new way of doing login, and see if they use it. I had this experience. Me and Caroli, we have a few projects together. For one of them, I just added a new payment option. My discovery is just adding the option and seeing if people were going to use it or not, right? And we realized that 100% of new payments were with the new payment option. Like 0% used the old one. So it was still there. So like, well, okay, the old one is actually still there. I didn't bother even removing it because it makes no difference to me. Like it's there, whatever. We're not spending money, and I will spend money to remove it from the page. So well, whatever. It's not really in the way. It's not causing friction, I guess. I might take it out, but not yet. I'm still like, yeah, no, it's good. We have a result here. But sometimes, login can be just like that. Like, oh, you want to try, Facebook login to see if the people want to use it. Try it. Put it there. Oh, but it's going to cost, engineering hours. Yeah, discovery will cost hours too. Maybe, but the most important thing maybe about, login specifically, which is something that I saw out in the wild, is when you write a user story, try to write what the user needs to do in a way that is you think as the user, because I saw that user story, and I'm another trauma of my career, which is me as a user, or I never know how to say that in English, right? I as a user want to do my login with my password, and I was like, who the hell wants to do a login with a password, man? That's just what I don't want to do. I don't want another password. I don't want to do any kind of login. I don't want to try to remember if I ever signed up for a site or not. This is pure friction with zero benefit. Like there's zero benefit. And people go like, oh no, but the benefit is that the page is personalized. Now you have the user story. Okay. The user needs a personalized
You open
page.
more conversation.
Huh?
When should you write the user story? Before or after the discovery? If it is after the discovery to guide developers, yeah, go in detail.
But here's
If
the
it is
thing.
before the discovery, no.
I would say after the problem discovery, right? Because if
Yeah,
you do proper discovery, you know that the user does not want to do any kind of login. Like,
yeah.
oh
I,
man, oh no, another login page. So even the page is kind of moot. Like nobody wants that.
I,
So just do it. If you don't have enough time, if you want to mitigate risk, yeah, do it. But keep in mind that people might not even want that page in the first place. So don't sweat it so much. Like, oh, we need to do login like this or like that. We need to do discovery. We need to analyze
your
because
basic
ultimately people
validate
don't even want
stuff
it.
before. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's just the part of the user story. I used to be a developer. From the other side, I like the user story to be very specific. So I have nothing against of being very specific on the user story because I'm going to
Yeah,
use
yeah,
it
yeah,
to code it,
yeah,
right? But make sure that whatever you're coding makes sense in the
yeah.
overall strategy.
But don't write it just looking at your site, and usually it
Yeah.
is something that's a little bit. Um, I don't know if it's frowned upon, but sometimes I would see my clients a bit disappointed at me because I wouldn't discuss the product as is very much. I wouldn't be very interested in looking at the screens first. I would talk to the users first without even looking at the product because I don't even want the bias, right? Because once you start looking at the screens, you get um, kind of fascinated by that and you want to correct the screens, and maybe it's more a matter of understanding what those screens are causing in the user's life and redesigning everything if you need to. No problem, no problem there. Sometimes it's way cheaper because it's going to give you so much more money to redesign everything according to the user needs than actually adjusting fields and trying, I don't know, meta sign up or things like that.
All of this to answer your question, Joca. Joca, the answer is go with continuous discovery. If
Yeah.
you
There
consider
we go.
discovery a phase, maybe you're going to say yes or no. If
Yeah.
it is continuous discovery, you say yes because whatever you do, you're getting feedback from that action.
There you go. There you
But
go.
for every question, I have a story, man. I'm the storyteller. Yeah,
You're the Forrest Gump of the
exactly.
digital
I've
product
seen
industry.
things and I talk about them, a lot. Yeah.
Nice, nice. And with that, we close this episode. We discovery was actually something that we realized that we're gonna talk a lot about it, and we did. So almost 1 hour of episode, and well, that's it. So hope you have enjoyed, and see you in the next episode.
See you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.